Good afternoon. We're absolutely thrilled to have all of the participation, and in just a second, one of my colleagues, Heather Sherman, will tell us where you guys are, but I just wanted to introduce myself, David Burns, Director of STEM Innovation Networks for Battelle Memorial Institute. I've been involved with the Ohio STEM Learning Network since its inception, and that's about 150 years ago. With today is Dr. Stephanie Johnson. She is also with Battelle Memorial Institute. Lavender, who is with the Department of Education. We are absolutely thrilled to have her here. And Heather Sherman, who is also with Battelle and now working exclusively or specifically with the schools that are involved in the network.
Great. We had a tremendous amount of interest from people all over the state, and we have a map created so that you can see how the interest of STEM is broadly crossing all throughout Ohio. So while we cannot name all of the schools and all of the participants, I wanted to let you know that this is an effort that you're not alone in, and there are plenty of people, in addition to the existing schools in Ohio STEM Learning Network, who feel that STEM is a priority, and I just wanted to let you know how big of a movement this is.
It seems to get a little bit bigger. What is impressive to me about this particular map that you're looking at is we have always had the interest in STEM education along I-71 and I-75. So in your specifically Cincinnati, Cleveland, Columbus, Dayton, Akron, all up and down, that has never been an issue for us, but what you will see are some flags in very, very rural areas. Very exciting to us. We're starting to get some people on the western edge of Ohio, which has never, ever occurred before, and actually the far east, outside of Lima there. So, participating in the process does not ensure that you're going to fill out an application, but we're absolutely thrilled with your interest in this. Is we are making this webinar through Battelle Memorial. The question is, why are we involved in this? We have been involved with Battelle, has been involved with the Ohio STEM Learning Network for 10 years. We went through a branch called Battelle Education, which is a 501c3, which is interesting because Battelle itself is a 501c3. If you do not know of who Battelle is and what we do, it would be of interest to look us up on the web. We're for sure the largest private 501c3 in research and development in the country. What we're most known for is managing labs. To put that into real frank terms, about everybody that walks around in here has a PhD of some kind or another. So if you look at why is Battelle interested in STEM education, it's really from a vested interest. These are that we depend on for every day of our work, managing whether it's a lab in national security or health or energy. These are people that we need to create the next generation of innovation. I will tell you one of the more interesting things from the CEO level of Battelle is not just the PhDs that he's interested in to be STEM literate. The business people, the legal people, the food service people all need to be STEM literate so that they can actually be economically viable in the 21st century. So it's a vested interest of Battelle. We have dedicated most, if not all, of our philanthropic funding around STEM education. It's an important issue. With taglines, we like to solve what matters most, and we think STEM education is not only an interest to the state of Ohio, but the country. The question is, why does the Ohio Department of Education?
It's Holly Lavender. I am the STEM education lead at the department, and we are part of the newly formed Office of Innovation at the department that's existed since May, and STEM is now housed in the Office of Innovation. For a while it was housed in the Career Tech, and there are some folks there who help to manage anything that had to do with the STEM schools. The department is involved. The department's had some involvement along with Battelle in some way for a while. I believe our office is probably a little bit more involved than we have been in the past. Our office was specifically created to help promote innovative educational opportunities for students, and STEM is one of those. So we're looking at to help students have more work-based experiences, work-based learning, authentic educational opportunities so students can have ways to explore things that they're interested in, personalized learning, all those things that you think of as innovation. STEM is part of that, and I'm very excited to be in this particular position because of my own background with STEM research and that sort of thing before I became an educator, and so this is kind of a good job for me. But I wanted to say also we do have a few pilots going on. Competency-based education is also housed within our department. That's something that you should maybe, when you have an opportunity, to look at our competency-based education webpage and see what's going on there. What we're working with Battelle quite a bit is what are the next steps for STEM education in Ohio? STEM has been around technically in law books in Ohio for about 10 years. I think there's probably a few updates that we could make to maybe what's the step for the direction that we want to go. So we have a few people that we're collaborating with to try to give us some guidance on what the direction, what types of things we should be thinking about.
A footnote, we're absolutely thrilled that Holly and team are involved in the Department of Education. The partnership has always gone well, but when we have a committed partner like Holly, who's very much dedicated to what innovative practices, make all of our lives easier, and we're just thrilled with this partnership. At the end of the day, all applications for STEM designation are evaluated by the Ohio STEM Committee. Interesting is who's on this, and we don't just make up a committee. This is actually written legislation of who will serve. State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Paul Maria, is on, and I will tell you that he is actively on this committee and engages with the committee, specifically in the last 2 meetings, because he, just like Holly, are very much interested in what goes on, specifically around innovative practices. The Chancellor of the Ohio Department of Higher Education is also involved. Why? Because obviously when you're developing STEM schools, they should be informed by what's going on in post-secondary world and what's next. This one has been since the beginning, the Director of Development, so we have a firm root into what's going on in workforce development and what's going on in the workforce for the state of Ohio. There are 4 members of the public, 2 appointed by the governor and 1 by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and 1 by the President of the Senate. Ultimately, and through the process of how the application moves through, but ultimately it's these people who make the decision of whether you are designated or not. A little view of the Ohio STEM Learning Network and how we support the committee and the schools. We're looking throughout the state, and if you look at the blue circles on your slide, those are what we call STEM hubs. There are 7 of them throughout the state supporting multiple STEM schools. Basic idea behind all of this. When you're running a school, you don't really have time to share the innovative practices that you're doing or how you create. So we've created this hub and spoke structure that hubs in each one of these regions are to be interacting with the schools, doing research projects within the schools, and basically promoting the innovative practices that are happening within the schools. So We connect people, educators, schools, with people who are doing inventive things, creative things, pushing them to not just talk to Ohio STEM folks, but to anybody throughout their communities. We help communities create new STEM schools. Probably the best example of this is Heather has worked in the last 2 years for iSTEM in Geauga County. We drive STEM innovation. So we don't create anything here. We learn from what you do, and we try to promote that throughout the network. But we also do a couple different pieces beyond the startup of STEM schools and network. We do professional development for teachers. Some of you are familiar with Literacy by Design Collaborative. We work with that. With national organizations, code.org comes to mind, the Change the Equation comes to mind. Rod and team here, who you met at the beginning, put out weekly blog posts about what you're doing and what you're doing for the benefit of students.
ODE, a lot of what I do is listed right there in those 4 bullets. We sometimes call ourselves the Office of Miscellaneous because it seems like anything that they're not quite sure what to do is lays in honestly. I provide administrative support for the STEM committee in terms of the meetings, getting all those things organized, questions, making sure everybody communicates and gets what they need for the meeting for the STEM designation. We collaborate with OSLN in facilitating this STEM designation process, which is part of that is what's happening here today with the webinar. A lot of my position is involved around interpreting state policy that's related to STEM schools in Chapter 3326 and other related sections of law. We're also collaborating with, we have an advisory group that we're working with to give us, as I mentioned earlier, some guidance on next directions for steps for STEM in Ohio. In particular, some things that are happening with computer science. There's a big push at the federal level as well. We also want to look at opportunities for teachers, students, to have some experiences with industry partners, and some of those things STEM schools are already doing. Just looking at some ways of how to assist in places where maybe those resource people are not as easily available. How can we assist in making some of those connections? So those people are providing us some input on how we might be able to scale some of those things up.
Leads me into the next slide. Go ahead, Rob. I think Holly has done more so than that has happened in previous administrations with the Department of Education. She's pushing the business ingredient into this. And to be perfectly frank, she's pushed to me and said, hey, business is not as involved as I thought they would be in this activity. And that's absolutely correct. When this initiative started 10 years ago, it was actually driven by the Ohio Business Roundtable, and business was the one who was pushing for STEM education in the state of Ohio. That's the root of the 3 key ingredients to each and every application that comes in. Who's the school, who's the business partner, under business partner, and who's the college. Give a little bit of historical information in this. Why would we want those 3 together? Obviously, we think those 3 together make for a good STEM school. But the truth is, many of you are educators out here. You know that STEM can be the flavor of the week. So you have a new superintendent, they want to do a STEM school, they get everybody excited, they start it, and 2 years later, the superintendent's gone and the STEM school is no longer the flavor of the week. We know that in a local community, businesses don't tend to go away, and universities tend to have ivy on them because they hang around for 100 years. So even if the school loses, the school district loses interest in this, we know one of the 3 will remain committed to it. So that's why the 3 key ingredients are school, business partner, and college. Just college can be a 2-year or a 4-year institution. A good example of what business partnership looks like is the Honda Corporation with Marysville, the Marysville STEM High School. And actually, and I don't want to be speaking for them, but the notion of this school actually, I think, was born out of Honda as opposed to the district. They were the driving force to begin with, and the district has done a phenomenal job with that. Those schools and do great things. They give them sample equipment that is actual work-based equipment that students will be using. They give them an industry focus, and they provide mentors for the students. So when we talk about partnership, and we'll get a little bit in this later as we go, it's not just kind of a love letter, we think you're great, good to you. It's a real commitment to the school, and it can show up in material ways. Another example of a great partnership is going on with the District of Springfield City Schools and GISA, the Global Impact STEM Academy, located in Springfield, Ohio. But the partnership between the independent school and the district provides for lunch for the kids, gives cafeteria service, I believe provides some transportation within the district. The school building for GISA, an independent school, is in an old Springfield City Schools, Springfield South, historical place in Springfield, now beautifully renovated, now a very useful place sitting in the heart of Springfield, Ohio. We'll give you the application itself. Partnership. To what degree does the proposal provide a thorough description of the public-private partnership structure, including levels of commitment? We do want to see, both the department and the STEM committee and OSLN want to see a level of commitment. Sure.
The partnership is really important, not just for the application, but for the student. We have had so many students who some of these STEM schools have had opportunities through internships or just maybe collaborating with local business organizations where they have a job right out of high school with all kinds of experience already under their belt, and they can jump right into a job and work on their degree without having to have a lot of college debt. And so it's a huge benefit for students to have these partnerships that are strong and can support the work that the students are doing.
Thank you. This is, what does a true partnership look like? That would be considered high. The low one is considered the love letter. Most of you are in the education, we all do grants, we all write grants. I've done these love letters. Somebody calls me at 12 o'clock on a Friday and says they need it at 1 o'clock on a Friday, and you do the template letter. As grant reviewers, we can tell the difference between the commitment. I'm sorry, where the example was.
It's in it.
No, that's fine.
One more.
Evidence, the application must describe what the partnership is, include those letters, the strong letters. Weak will be an application that has minimal representation from the key stakeholders. It can be acceptable if it demonstrates a genuine partnership, but a real strong one is if we have worked with these people, we know what these people do, and we know they are committed to the school. And enthusiastic support, you know, it gets beyond the cheerleading, but just get in the game.
Consider also that a strong partnership, it goes both ways. There's something that the school can benefit from, but there's also a benefit for business partners as well.
Just about this that we're looking at, we did use the rubric for application to come up with these descriptors. So for those of you following along at home, please reference the Designation application rubric for information about what we're talking about.
On the screen, and this webinar is being recorded and available to anyone. We can make the slide available. This is a true letter from Honda to support the Marysville school. But you can see they are bulleted very specific things that that Honda will do to support the school. And I think Holly makes a great point. What's the school going to do to support? And the more you can probably see a two-way relationship, probably the stronger the application. Governor, This will be the question 2 on your applications. It's the assurances that the school will be under the oversight of a governing body, and it describes the members that are there in the governing body. This can be a little bit tricky if you are in a district school. The governing body is going to be the school board. If you're in a school, you can reshape the governing body to meet the needs of the school. What I would say is, if I'm in district school, I would probably set up an advisory body, not so much a governing board, but an advisory body that has the skills necessary. Meaning, do you have somebody who is in a STEM business or STEM post-secondary or understands what STEM needs on this committee and or board? If you just put in from, I'll say from Cincinnati, if you just put in the school board and don't have anybody that has any kind of STEM experience, that would be a low location. Board locations, this goes through what I just mentioned. You meet the criteria, you have STEM experience and or expertise that promote a strong application. Here's our favorites ones. This is question number 3 is compliance with the law. And it has very good Ohio Revised Code wording up there. It says, ye shall do this. And here's what a high looks like. Do it. This is either a yes or a no kind of question. So we've never really met with anyone who had a hard time meeting the assurances, but this is basically saying that you're going to run the school in a legal and lawful manner.
Yeah, most of these things really have to do with, is what you just said. It's what are legal requirements for being able to operate a school.
Question 4, A, B, and C is really when we get to the meat of the application. Still emphasize STEM. Does incorporate scientific inquiry and technological design. Here is very interesting. The tendency to think that STEM schools push out the arts, that you can't be both, and that fear is actually, is in there. Legislators were actually fearful of that happening. They wanted to ensure that the arts and humanities were a part of the holistic educational approach. We are in the STEM schools that we have worked with. We have never seen this as a problem, but it is something that you do have to address in the application. D, obvious, emphasizes personalized learning and teamwork skills. This is the crux of the application for Ohio STEM Learning Network, I believe for the Department of Education, the to the nitty-gritty. Teach when you're going to teach it. Leadership is also kind of big for us. It's strange, but we've never seen a great STEM school without a great STEM leader. They just don't happen. So we have asked, or the department has asked, and the legislative has asked, that you consider what school leadership looks like. And what are the kind of qualifications? This does not mean that you have to hire a chemist to run your school. This means that you have to have the kind of person who can lead all the co-curricular, cross-curricular kind of activities that the school will need and has the right adaptation skills to push a new and innovative curriculum in the school day. Think about it. Some of you, because usually the applications are a year ahead or a year advanced, are you thinking about getting the right person in there? Applications that say we're just going to hire a principal. That's probably not a good answer. We tell what it looks like in 4A, B, C, and D. This is actually the curriculum will be developed by whom, and you've got to have that school leader, that chief academic officer in the mix. You have to have the teachers in the mix, and we strongly encourage having a higher education partner. If you're going to create a school that does more, you have to have people who have access to more. So typical high school curriculum isn't going to be enough. They're never saying that you have to be an early college, but that tends to be a natural design. And if you want the students to be specifically qualified To be successful, you have to know what's next. I think we get hung up on this, applicants, that they actually feel that they have to have the application and the curriculum down pat a year in advance. We're not for that. We are looking for you to have the right people involved to create the curriculum.
And you might consider if there's somebody locally that is part of your team who is someone with experience or expertise in STEM, that'd be a logical person to include on this curriculum.
And then to include, or entity to consider including, would also be your business partners, because the needs of the business community can help inform the things that you emphasize in your curriculum, and that's another place where you can ensure that that partnership is represented.
And with OSLN, as none of us in this room create the innovation that happens in schools. We know that it happens out in the field, it happens in the classrooms. So we ask, through OSLN, and the legislators supported this notion, that you have some kind of demonstrated capacity to capture and share the knowledge. What does it mean? This looks like somebody dedicated on your staff who will report out, who will, and I don't want to make it sound like it's a compliance. Are you participate within the network? Are you going to share your good ideas? Are you open to having your school open for other people to come through to be able to see what this looks like?
That's news for you out there who are trying for designation, because you have an existing network of schools that you can talk to right now about what they're doing that's working, what issues they've encountered, how they've overcome those obstacles. You look at their websites to see what innovative practices they're doing. Still, take all ideas, collaborate with them now, because they've done a lot of the work for you.
People, if not all the schools I find within the network, are very gracious as far as opening their doors, but if you're just not able to contact something, we can facilitate that. The only reason right now that somebody would say no is if they're overwhelmed. So I know like ESA School in Springfield is very metro school here. That doesn't mean they'll say no, it just means maybe later.
Sure.
Switching chat.
In business, you have to have a partnership. We've emphasized it from the beginning, but what does the partnership look like? A person sitting on the committee is probably good, but being able to illustrate how they will participate with the school is even better, and this gets back to the business partners as well.
This is also one place where what Heather was just referring to is reaching out to some of the existing school network. If you're not quite sure what that looks like, go visit some of them and see how they're utilizing those partnerships, and that may help in application as well.
Another thing, see where is innovative partnering, we're beyond dual enrollment and classroom presentations. With College Credit Plus being as popular as it is, a lot of schools can sort of already say that they're partnering with higher ed. As you're applying for designation, you need to think of how you're taking it a step beyond that and really opening up opportunities for students and make that partnership more substantial than what everybody else is doing.
We absolutely do not expect this out of you, but a tangible example of this is the Dayton Regional STEM School offers needs to their class. To be honest with you, they cannot afford a Chinese teacher, but Wright State University can. And in a shared position, Wright State offers Chinese 101, Dayton Regional STEM School offers Chinese 101. It actually works as a college credit. It's a pretty slick deal, but that's much further of a commitment than College Plus. Support assurances that the school has sustained and viable fiscal and in-kind support from regional education and business entities. I believe the application requires a 3-year budget. And are you sustainable? And this goes back to our old educational days. The worst thing Battelle could support, and the worst thing that the Ohio STEM Learning Network and the Department of Education could support, is schools that would start next year as being great and go kids and go to it, and then having to close it down. That's like taking Christmas presents away. You have to be able to have the sustainability to get these schools up and running, and a promise to your student population that you have the wherewithal to carry it through. John Closer, this was just like the insurances. This is, I believe, Ohio Revised Code. When you close a school, you have to be able to distribute the assets in appropriate state of Ohio ways. This is basically saying you will do that.
Let me go back to the slide, Ron.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
I just meant to
Commitment
say
to support.
something here. For the financial section, if you're a community school, make sure that you include evidence of a sponsor. That is something probably that we really technically review the applications in the same way that OSLN and the K does.
Correct.
But we do look at them, and that can be problematic if we see that a school is wanting to apply for STEM designation as a community school and have a sponsor. So just make sure that you have evidence of that in your application. Sorry.
I think that's great, and I think that goes to the point. We never say it's for a bad situation where we're a school. So I would push even further, not only that you have a sponsor, but you have a sponsor with a great reputation for being successful. Here's this what all makes the application a bit better. One of the things that we were pushing for when the business community did start this project 10 years ago, they said, why don't you start 10 schools for the best and the brightest? And our pushback from Battelle was, best of don't need this. We need to create something that will benefit all kids. So the mission of recruiting a wide range of kids, specifically disadvantaged and underrepresented populations, will bode well in an application. School culture supports inquiry-based learning, student voice, and voice. The more the kids can take ownership of their own education, the better for all. With a school, you're usually only hiring 4, maybe 5 teachers. So you most highly effective teachers that you can get. It's tougher if you're trying to do a conversion and you're hiring a whole staff for grades 7 through 12 or 9 through 12. But a notion of how you will recruit those teachers will bode well for your application. Who's pretty much everything. Yeah, I'd like to say it in a different way, but the school districts, college, university, business, a community school with a solid sponsor, a vocational school, and I know in our applications we have a couple of JVSs that are looking to do this, all welcome. So it's basically open to the entire Ohio. Bright tips. I'm not saying KISS, keep it simple, but use the rubric to format your application. Don't make us go looking for it, and it's not us, it's any kind of reviewer, and this comes out of the Battelle proposal. We write a lot of proposals around here. You make it easier on your reviewer. Life is good for everybody. You want to talk evaluation?
It's a holistic rubric, not an analytical rubric. And so think of the rubric as a whole, and so it will be scored as a whole, but we're not using points. If there are a few pieces, especially as David mentioned earlier, that have to do with the program, which are critical to the application, and if that section is weak, it would throw the whole application, even though that's one section. So think of the application as a STEM school as a whole, that's how it will be viewed, your program, your people, your partnerships, and are you prepared? 4 P's. So think of those things together. So I just want to show.
Thank you. Here are the important dates. The deadline for the designation is what, February 17th?
Yes.
That's the final. But we're going to back in from that. Recommend that you notify, and this is not a huge thing, it's like an email to David or Stephanie or Heather that says we're going to apply for this, and you're not held to it. What that allows us to do is find out how many people we need to work with you and the applications. It's very helpful. So I do want you to know this is not David, Heather, and Stephanie Ravens. I'm looking at your applications. The people we get to help us review the pre-proposals are current principals or lead teachers within STEM schools. We try to get 2 to 3 different sets of eyes on the application and take that feedback and get it back to you. We read them, but not just us. For a pre-proposal or pre-review by OSLN, if you could get that to us by January 23rd. And again, I will tell you, as of yesterday, we had 38 people that were part of this webinar today. So there's quite a few applications if it pops up that way. We just want to know how many are coming in. That's the January 9th date. The January 23rd is we would like to see them. It's real collaborative process. We look through them, we get the right people to look through them, then we come back to you and say, this is a point of strength, this is a point of weakness, this is where we think you can improve. What do you mean by a business partnership? What do you mean by the college? Here's the real truth. The committee takes this really seriously. When proposed, and the applications come to OSLN, ultimately, we propose to the STEM committee to accept or reject. They never just said yes. Never just said no. They have a discussion because they've actually read every one of the applications and they get into the game. So the more that we sit at the table and explain your intent, I think the better it is for you. No guarantee that if we recommend yes, that it will ever be accepted that way. Along with saying, the committee is really engaged. They take this very seriously, and I will say not all applications get accepted. Notify us of intent January 9th. Pre-submit January 23rd. We would give you probably 2 weeks on our end to be able to turn back around to you, work with you before the final date.
I just wanted to make one recommendation. I would highly recommend that you take advantage of the service that OSLN provides. That this is no cost, isn't it, for reviewing your application, because they're going to be looking at, as David mentioned, they're going to be looking at the applications and making a recommendation to the STEM committee based on what's in the application. So this is an opportunity for you to let through some people, experts, and get some feedback on your application before it comes to ODE, because once it comes to me, you're not going to be able to change it. So, yeah, that will be it. So that's kind of your opportunity to make it as best as you can, and these people are very good at looking at these applications and telling you what is a strong application and what is not.
And we do have a question coming in through the chat. So this is a question from Carrie Mayhaff, who she's part of a large Catholic school, and their question is around if they meet all the qualifications, if they primarily use STEM as a teaching methodology, or if they designated for having STEM as a part of their curriculum. I think I got that question right, Carrie, but there were two missing, and I think I got it. I might not.
The STEM designation is around schools. So having STEM methodology within a school without dedicating the whole school to STEM would not work for designation. it gets the notion of, can you designate a STEM program? The answer as of today is no. The answer that is appropriate is whole school reform, basically, that everybody's engaged. I appreciate the question. You were not the first person to ask it, and I think as Holly mentioned, the STEM working group right now is exploring different ways to approach that, because this isn't the first time we've heard this. But the answer today is just STEM school designation.
I want to also, we do have some charter non-public schools who are designated, and you might take a visit and go see how they're doing that. They're mostly in northeast Ohio, I think, up by the lake. Okay.
Sort of.
That's one in Pickaway County, and there's one that's up near Akron.
So just quickly, I was going to just go back to the sort of pre-review. I think David probably mentioned this. If you get it to us by January 23rd, we send it out to 2 or 3 other reviewers, not us, as David said, STEM school principals or teachers. They use the rubric, review your application, and provide feedback. And then we'll get that back to you with a couple of weeks for you to make any kind of edits or modifications, ask questions, clarifications. And I think, again, I'm going to just repeat it, but we do make recommendations to the STEM committee. So the more that we know about you and your school and your application and what you're proposing, the better informed our recommendations are to the STEM committee. So, again, everybody said it, I'm just repeating, but it's worth your time to get to us so that we can have our eyes on it and make those recommendations.
Also, it can help you to know whether you're ready for it.
Sure.
Sometimes we say,
like, you got a good start, and probably in 2 weeks you're not going to be able to pull it together. But definitely you got a good start, and maybe give yourself another year.
I covered this a little bit there. I did want to call folks' attention to that there is a 2-part proposal application process. So yes, you're emailing a digital copy online. You're also mailing a copy to Holly.
I have a question. Is it okay to send Holly a link to Google Drive file?
It's not real problematic for me as long as you don't mind it. I can't guarantee that it's going to be secure. So
That's okay. I was just thinking about the size of these applications and if, yeah.
Most of them, they come in PDF.
Well, it's be longer than 20 pages anyway, right? So
It's 2 pages, not including the cover letter or the letters of support.
That's the whole application process. We don't leave you just here. You can call Heather, you can call Stephanie, you can call me, and if we don't have the answer, we will get you to the right person to have the answer for you, and we get some interesting questions during the process. It's in our vested interest to have more STEM schools. The more kids can benefit from innovative curriculum in the state of Ohio is a great thing. I will say I was a little bit taken aback when 38 people signed up for this, because that would double the size of the network, tomorrow. It's a great thing. That would be a great problem for us to have. We can facilitate visits, we can help facilitate to the right experts, and we can certainly help facilitate the application process.
We let all of the hub coordinators know that there's a great interest this year, and we sent them your names, and so they know who to anticipate calls from. If you need anything at all, like they said, please call or email us. We will be glad to help.
And we'll offer, I'm going to plug the Innovative Leader Institute.
Please.
So we are just finishing or halfway through our 4th cohort of the Innovative Leader Institute. It's sort of a hands-on curriculum for school leaders. So school leaders, and it's actually a team from the school can apply and school leader and anybody else in the building can apply as a team to kind of spend a year with a cohort of other like-minded colleagues and learn from each other and learn from some of the best leaders in the state. So we will be probably early January releasing our next application for cohort 5 that will start the end of April. So look for that. I know that there are some folks participating today who have been or are in live, so we have a great program and it has been fairly successful, and participants have, I think nearly 100% of the participants have said that they were glad that they attended and would recommend it to a colleague. So look for that in early January.
Great. We do have a question from Tracy who points out we said email us, but we didn't give you our email address.
Sure, put mine out there first.
We'll email the list, we'll email our contact information after this to everyone who signed up for this summer.
Or frankly, y'all should have gotten an email from me, Rob Evans, and so like I'm happy to forward your message if you send me. No.
Happy to forward his message.
I am happy to forward.
Any other questions there, sir?
Let's see. I don't think I have anything else in chat. Phone folks, if you're gonna jump in, here's your 3, 2, 1. Okay.
I want to thank Holly for participating, our team for participating in this. This is the end of it. I hope it's the start of it. June to Christmas is 17 days away, so I hope you work diligently on this for the next 5 days and then forget about it till the first of the year. We all the email addresses. Most of the people who are on the webinar are school-based people. I know you're working hard, and we certainly hope that you have a very great holiday and take some rest, because you're going to need it. Time between January and May is horrible, but
Fun, David, fun.
I call it a death march.